Imagine an idyllic countryside farm, neatly trimmed lawns, cozy cottages. On the windows, boxes overflowing with blooming geraniums. It seems like the perfect place to hide from the horrors of a raging war. A rural paradise created for a peaceful life. But this beauty is an illusion, a facade, a set built by the devil. You are looking at Sobibor, a place where 29 Nazi SS officers created a little paradise for themselves in order to comfortably murder 250,000 people. October 1943. This is a war against humanity, World War II in real time. In just one past week alone, the Japanese killed 98 American civilians on Wake Island. The Germans carried out a bloody massacre of Greek civilians in Lingiades. In Auschwitz, 1,313 Jews, mostly children deported from the Białystok ghetto, were exterminated. And Reichsfuhrer SS Heinrich Himmler delivered 2 chilling speeches in Posen, where before SS leaders, he coldly and in detail explained why he considered it justified to kill small children. The world is burning. But it is precisely this week that humanity begins to resist. The Pope enters a desperate struggle, saving thousands of Jews right under the Nazis' noses in Italy. And in that very paradise garden of Sobibor, the slaves decide to do what seemed impossible, to rise in revolt. You are on the Still Here channel. We bring back from oblivion the stories we have no right to forget. If historical truth matters to you and you want to support our work, right now click the subscribe button and like this video. This helps the algorithms show such important topics to millions. Done? Then we dive into the darkness. While the German Nazis continue to wipe entire peoples from the face of the earth, their own cities are turning to ashes. The UN alliance is unleashing a rain of bombs on Germany. Night raids by Britain's Royal Air Force and daytime precision bombings by the US Air Force continue without interruption, though with mixed success. This week, the US 8th Air Force is picking up tempo again, but the price of it is American blood. On October 8th and 9th, they strike industrial targets in Bremen and Marienburg. On October 10th, Münster becomes the target. A meat grinder unfolds in the sky. The 8th Air Force suffers catastrophic losses. 88 heavy B-17 bombers are shot down. 900 servicemen are lost. In Münster itself, 700 civilians are killed. Just 4 days later, the Americans fly again for ball bearings in Schweinfurt. Of the 291 bombers that set out, 60 are shot down outright. Another 17 crash during hard landings in England. 121 aircraft are riddled with holes and require major repairs. About 650 American airmen are killed. U.S. command cannot withstand these horrifying figures, and operations over Germany are temporarily suspended. But on the ground, inside Germany itself, the system is cracking. Many German cities have been evacuated. However, people, tired of wandering, want to return to their ruined homes, despite the obvious danger of new raids. To discourage them, city councils resort to harsh blackmail. They refuse to issue food ration cards to evacuees who return. And then something happens that no one expected. On October 11th, about 300 Germans, mostly women and children, take to the streets of the city of Witten in protest. The SS security service, Sicherheitsdienst, compiles a striking report. Listen to these lines. This led to disgraceful scenes, so that the Witten city authorities were forced to call in the police to restore order. However, they refused to intervene, since the women's demands were fair and there were no legal grounds to deny the issuance of rations. In an unusual twist of history, the ruthless SS proves more lenient than the local council. But the women remain unyielding. Many of them take jobs as volunteers in factories, becoming essential workers. The Witten administration is forced to back down and issue them rations. This is not just a local revolt. Witten is a working-class city where, before the war, there were many socialists and communists who hated the Nazis. But the paradox is that the British bombing plan, developed by Arthur Harris in hopes of provoking an anti-Nazi uprising, produces the opposite effect. The rain of bombs unites the Germans. They close their eyes to ideological differences, rallying. We move to Italy. Here unfolds a drama worthy of an ancient tragedy. The SS leader in unoccupied Italy, Kappler, gives the Roman Jews a guarantee of safety. For that life, they paid a colossal ransom in gold just a week earlier. But for the Nazis, promises mean nothing. By direct order of Adolf Hitler, the agreement is annulled. Adolf Eichmann, the chief logistician of the Holocaust, sends his key assistant to Rome, SS Hauptsturmführer Theodor Dannecker and 44 selected soldiers. This is an execution squad. Kappler hands them lists of names stolen from the Roman synagogue. However, Kappler himself is frightened. He fears that such treachery will provoke mass unrest among ordinary Italians. Together with military commander Rainer Stahl and diplomat Friedrich Mühlhausen, they try at least to delay the massacre. Unsuccessfully. Then Mühlhausen takes a desperate step. He contacts the Vatican. The information lands on the desk of Pope Pius XII. Understanding that the Nazis cannot be trusted, Pius XII acts swiftly. He opens the doors of monasteries within the Vatican itself and throughout Rome, providing Jews with shelter. Within a matter of days, 5,000 people find salvation behind the church's stone walls. Therefore, when on October 16th, Dannecker's men begin a brutal roundup in Rome's Jewish quarter, they find only 1,259 people out of the expected 8,000. Those who were found faced a terrible fate. They were dragged from their homes, brutally beaten, spat upon, and thrown into trucks. After strong objections from the Vatican, 218 people, Jews who had converted to Christianity, are nevertheless released. But the remaining 1,041 people, they are herded into cattle cars. Eichmann's train departs for Auschwitz. Of that 1,000, only 16 people will survive the war. While Auschwitz is only just gaining momentum, the death factories of Operation Reinhard have already fulfilled their terrible task and are preparing to shut down. And we return to Sobibor. Among all the camps, it stands out for its perverse cynicism. It is the smallest of the extermination factories. Between 170,000 and 250,000 people were murdered here. Guarding this hell were 29 German SS men and about 100 auxiliary collaborator guards from various countries. And it was they who created that very illusion of a rural paradise. The victims arrive at a harmless, even charming wooden station. Stepping off the train, they see the Vorlager, a complex of villas and cottages built in the style of a Tyrolean village. The prisoners are separated from their belongings. Then they are led onto a small street. On the left, the administration building. On the right, picturesque farmhouses. With sadistic humor, the SS call this street Himmelstrasse, road to heaven. It ends in a forest path. Beyond the trees, out of sight, Camp 3, the final station, the gas chambers. The deception works perfectly. People understand what is about to happen only at the very last second when they enter the gates of Camp 3. Survivors spoke of those terrible moments, futile struggle, attempts to escape. They are stripped under a hail of blows from clubs and at gunpoint. Then they are driven into the chambers. Behind the closed doors, cries of horror ring out. Dozens of fists desperately pound on the steel doors. And then this chorus of the buried alive is drowned out by the roar of diesel engines that begin pumping carbon monoxide inside. For this whole machine to function, the SS keeps 600 Jewish men and women in slavery. They work 12 hours a day without days off. Builders, tailors, cooks, maids. One of them, the Dutch artist Max van Dam, is kept alive only to paint pictures for SS officers, including formal portraits of the Führer. But by mid-October, the trains stop arriving. The 600 slaves understand. Their work is finished, which means it is their turn to die. October 12th becomes the point of no return. The commandant of the first camp, SS Oberscharführer Karl Frenzel, enters the men's barrack. He selects 18 sick prisoners and leads them toward Camp 3. One of the condemned is a Dutchman, so weak he can barely stand. His wife is in the women's barrack. Learning that her husband is being taken to his death, she breaks out onto the square. Her cry tears through the silence of Sobibor. "Murderers! I know where you're taking my husband. Take me with him. I will not, do you hear? I will not live without him. Murderers! Scum!" She voluntarily becomes the 19th victim of that day. For the underground that had formed in the camp, this is a signal. There is no more time to wait. A few weeks earlier, a group of Soviet POWs from Minsk had arrived in the camp. Among them was Alexander Sasha Pechersky. It was they, men with military experience, who devised the daring plan. The idea was incredible in its simplicity and brutality. The SS officers had to be lured one by one into the workshops under various pretexts. Kill them quietly, take their weapons, cut communications, and then, under the guise of a routine roll call, march out in an organized column through the gates toward the armory and break to freedom. October 14th, Day X. 17 SS men are in the camp. Axes and knives are secretly distributed among the conspirators. Around 15:30, the plan is set in motion. The acting camp commander, Untersturmführer Johann Niemann, is told that the tailors have finished his new elegant suit. Unterscharführer Josef Wolf is invited to look at fine items taken from the murdered. Wolf enters first. He tries on a new coat. At that moment, a prisoner standing behind him drives an axe into his skull with all his strength. The body is instantly hidden under a pile of clothes, and his pistol is taken. In the tailor's workshop, Niemann is also beaten to death with an axe. Then retribution reaches the executioners in the carpentry shop, in the garage, among the weavers. 17-year-old Yehuda Lerner, a participant in the uprising, recalled, "The German said he hoped the winter coat was ready. The tailor brought the coat and began putting it on him. The German ended up closer to me. I was sitting, sewing on a button, and the axe was clamped between my legs. I stood up, leaving the coat over the axe, came up behind the SS man, and smashed his head." One by one, most of the German officers are eliminated, telephone wires are cut, electricity is switched off, weapons are collected. But perfect plans do not exist. Pechersky realizes in horror that the system is collapsing. Commandant Frenzel did not come to the workshop. He is still alive and walking somewhere around the camp. One of the killed SS men is hidden too poorly. There is no time. Pechersky makes the decision to begin roll call 10 minutes early. Prisoners come running from all sides. Many of them did not know about the uprising and understood everything only at the very last second. The crush begins. People in panic push forward, afraid of being left behind. At the gates of camp, they are met by the commander of the guard unit. "Hey, you bastards," he shouts. "Don't you hear the whistle? Why are you pushing like cattle? Get in line." Instead of an answer, axes rise from beneath the prisoners' coats and come crashing down on his head. The crowd breaks toward the armory, but the guards in the watchtowers notice this. The first shots ring out. Absolute bloody chaos begins. The main exit is blocked by machine gun fire. Then a huge crowd of people turns and rushes straight at the barbed wire fences behind which lie minefields. The first rows of those running explode on the mines. Their bodies are torn to pieces. But at the cost of their lives, the kobold, they clear a safe path for those running behind. Inside the camp, the surviving Frenzel and the guards shoot people in the back. Dozens fall dead. Pechersky and a group of fighters break through the only gap in the minefield behind the commandant's house. They burst into the saving forest. Out of 600 camp slaves, 365 managed to break beyond the fence. But only about 200 reached the edge of the forest. The rest were killed by bullets or blown up by mines. 150 people, out of fear or weakness, did not even attempt to flee. Among those killed that day was the artist Max van Dam. In the camp itself, only 2 uninjured SS officers and 3 wounded ones remained alive. 12 SS men were killed. Only 3 hours later do the Nazis manage to restore communication and call for reinforcements. The news reaches Berlin. Himmler is furious. Senior SS officers are rushed to Sobibor. Gruppenführer Jakob Sporenberg and Sturmbannführer Hans Höfle. Their first order: to shoot 150 prisoners who remained in the camp. The second order: to begin a large-scale manhunt. 500 police officers and SS soldiers block the Bug River and comb through every meter of forest. The escapees had nowhere to go. Shlomo Alster, one of the survivors, recalled this horror. "With us were French, Dutch, and Czechoslovak Jews. They knew neither the language nor the terrain. They went out onto roads occupied by the SS and were taken alive. Local residents also caught them one by one and handed them over to Sobibor. Not a single one of them survived. Out of the 200 escapees who reached the forest, the Nazis would capture and execute 100 people. The Sobibor camp would be wiped off the face of the earth, plowed over by tractors, and planted with trees to conceal the traces of the crime. Many of those who escaped would join the partisans and lay down their lives in battle. When the war ended in 1945, only 42 participants of the October Uprising would remain alive, and 5 who had escaped earlier. A total of 47 people, out of 250,000 murdered. Alexander Pechersky, Yehuda Lerner, Shlomo Alster, they would survive. But Pechersky's homeland would treat its hero cruelly. The Soviet Union would find him guilty of having been taken prisoner, send him to a penal battalion, and then imprison him. Only decades later would he receive the recognition he deserved. The surviving prisoners would devote the rest of their days to hunting down the executioners. Frenzel and others would stand trial. The trials of Sobibor guards would last for decades, up to the trial of John Demjanjuk in 2010. In 2014, when 84-year-old Uprising participant Filip Belovich was asked why, at such an advanced age, he continued to travel the world and tell this terrible story, he replied, "I vowed to walk the world and tell the story of the Sobibor death camp to young people for as long as I can. We cannot allow what happened then to be forgotten, and we will not forget either." If this video moved you, if you believe it is important to preserve this memory, subscribe to the Still Here channel. Leave a comment so that YouTube's algorithms show this video to others. Spread the truth